And I'll start with you, Ambassador Young, obviously. Is there anything that you don't do? And I got to use my glasses on this one here, if you don't mind. Pastor, civil rights leader, you were close confidant with MLK Jr., U.S. Congressman, first Black United States Ambassador to the United Nations, the 55th mayor of one of the greatest cities ever in our country, Atlanta, and you haven't stopped. Let's go back a little bit here to the March on Washington. This year actually marks the 60th anniversary of it. Can you take us back to what that day was like?
No, I can take you back before that day, though.
Okay.
Because there had been talk about a march on Washington in World War II with A. Philip Randolph and the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters over black employment and the desegregation of armed forces. It didn't happen. And in 1961, we had over 60 bombings of black people's homes in Birmingham, Alabama. One place. It didn't get to the papers in Atlanta. And it was like black people coming back from the military and going under the GI Bill and building nice little frame homes. There was nothing, they weren't mansions, they were just little wooden houses with a picket fence, but they had azaleas and roses. They were trying to live like folk. And for some reason or other, that enraged the Klan mentality in Birmingham. And they were bombing people's houses, and it wasn't getting any attention. Fred Shuttlesworth Church was bombed 3 times. And the 3rd time he came over to see us it was December 17th, 1962. And he said to Dr. King, we can't sit back with a passive nonviolence. We believe in nonviolence, but we've got to somehow make it more aggressive. And they wrote up a list of all of their complaints, the Birmingham Manifesto. And we decided then, SCLC, that we would join them in 1963 and start a movement. Well, it was an election, and we put off for the election, but Dr. King said to me something. He said, Andy, you know any white folks in Birmingham? And I said, I really don't think so. And he said, well, you got a couple of months to get to know some. And
couple months?
Yeah, well, that was January, December, January, and we didn't really start demonstrations till almost March. But I go into this because we had 2 months to prepare the community. And the black community wrote the Birmingham Manifesto. Without us, without our help, it was the things that they thought were wrong and unjust about this city. I happened to have gone to a church conference in Michigan, and there was a delegation from Alabama, from the Episcopal Church. And so I picked up the phone and called the Episcopal Diocese house and asked them, did they remember me and this? And I said, that turned out the director of Christian education remembered being there. And I asked her, would she introduce me to her bishop? And I'd like to try to set up a meeting between him and Martin Luther King and Ralph Abernathy and Fred Shuttlesworth and the people. I said, we're going to have problems here. And I think, I'm a pastor, and I think the church is going to be needed in helping to keep it calm, to keep it peaceful, and to allow nonviolence to work. So I say that to say that nonviolence was never just what black people did. And they set up a meeting. We explained that there would be a boycott and that for 90 days, black people would not buy anything but food or medicine, and that would hurt the economy. But we said, that's because we can't spend money where we can't work. We can't spend money where we can't go to the restroom. We can't spend money where there's a sign saying black water and white water. And we can't support a city where we're not allowed to vote. Dr. King was put in jail. And when he was put in jail, he wrote the letter from the Birmingham jail. And he wrote it around the margins of the New York Times. He didn't have any paper. And he didn't have a dictionary. He just barely had a pencil and a newspaper. When he ran out of space in the newspaper, he wrote on toilet paper. And he smuggled it out of the jail. And we got it, and it spread all over the world. I think the Quakers started promoting it because they believed in nonviolence also. Now, when we settled Birmingham, everybody was what we call freedom high. And Fred Shuttlesworth and James Bevel they didn't want to stop. And they wanted to march to Washington. When they said march to Washington, they meant getting out on Highway 11 and heading toward Washington. See? And they were patenting it after Gandhi's Salt March to the Sea. And A. Philip Randolph sent Bayard Rustin down to talk to us because he said this would be a right time for a march on Washington. And so we got together, and to hold people back from marching from Birmingham to Washington without plans, we turned it over to Bayard Rustin and A. Philip Randolph. And it was magnificent.
Yeah.
And we had no idea how many people were coming. I was out on the street trying to make sure that things were arranged right. And I say that because there was a group working on a speech, but the speech that they worked on, nobody was paying any attention to. It was a good economic speech. It said that America had presented the Negro with a bad check. And that when we came to the Bank of Freedom and Justice, we were rejected, and our checks were stamped insufficient funds. And he said, I refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice in America is bankrupt. Mahalia Jackson was sitting there, and she said to him, tell him about the dream, Martin.
Wow.
And she had heard him speak about this dream, I have a dream, in Detroit back in June. This was August. But when he shifted gears and said, I have a dream, he captured the hearts not only of black people, but of white people and of people all over the world, that we all somehow believe that earth can be more heavenly.